was a fun experiment where they were trying to figure out whether or not you could catch up on sleep on the weekends. And it turns out you can't. You need to get enough sleep every night. So they did a follow-up experiment. And in the follow-up experiment, they took people who got enough sleep and gave them a bias test. And then they took people who had gotten enough sleep and gave them the same test. And what they expected was that the people who had enough sleep would show less bias. The people who had enough sleep actually showed no bias at all. I am a speaker, a writer, and a filmmaker. So I spend my days, it's interesting, spend my days. So I recently became self-employed. I launched a company, David Dillon Thomas LLC, and my job is to go around and get people excited about and give them better tools for more inclusive design. I started doing that in 2021 after basically a 20-year career in UX and content strategy, and learning more about bias and how it intersects with UX and content strategy. Over here, there is legislation that says that you have to buckle your seatbelt. And the legislation, basically, you can get a ticket if you don't buckle your seatbelt. And the legislation on its own did a lot of good, especially with older drivers, but not as much with younger drivers. So they rolled out this campaign called Click It or Ticket. And that actually showed results. It moved the needle in such a way that almost 4,000 lives were saved, in part through rhyming. Wow. So it's silly, but yeah, you can use these powers for good. There is a lot of ego protection that goes on, right? And there are studies where if you give someone a situation where they have no reason to make an association between two things, like rationally, their mind will do it anyway. There's a long-winded thing about like field of vision, and if I block, but yeah, that's what our minds do. And a quicker example of how good your mind is at fooling you is just try this at home right now, right? Touch your nose and your toe at the same time. You feel it at the same time. You shouldn't. It should take just a little bit longer for that impulse to travel from your toe to your brain than from your nose to your brain. Your nose should get there first. But what happens is your brain says, okay, hold up, nose impulse, wait for the toe to get here. All right, both of you go through, right? And you don't even realize it, right? That's how good your mind is at fooling you, because your mind, you would probably feel like it was weird if those two things didn't happen at the same time.